Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be solving the biology paper 2 multiple choice extended question for May June 2022 paper. So let's get started. We don't want to waste any time. Now before you start your paper, you might want to read through every question that is there, because even if you don't know a particular question, you will be able to think more about it while solving the other questions. So it's very important to take a glance at the paper before you start attempting the paper. Now in this case, I've already taken a glance at the paper before I'm going to teach you guys how to solve it. So in this video, we're not only going to solve the paper, but also understand how to solve every multiple choice question. Now, let's get started. Question number 1. All living organisms release energy from nutrient molecules within their cells. Okay. Now they release energy. Now you're going to underline this word because this is a key word in this MCQ. And from nutrient molecules, right? What is the name of this characteristic? Now, growth. You should know the definition of growth, nutrition, respiration, and sensitivity. It's definitely not growth because it's the increase in the size and dry mass of an organism that does not release energy from nutrient molecules. Nutrition is the intake of substances for growth, right? So you're not really taking in anything. Over here, you already have the nutrient molecules and you're breaking these nutrient molecules down. Hence, the answer will be C, which is respiration. Now, the definition for respiration is the breakdown of nutrient molecules to release energy with the help of oxygen, right? So, our correct option is going to be C, respiration. And let's just define sensitivity. Sensitivity is the ability to detect changes in the internal or external environment. Now, if you look at the IGCSE syllabus, you will be able to see that they have specified that you should know all the definitions. Let's look at question number 2. Which diagram shows a flower from a monocotyledon? Now, monocots, obviously as the name suggests, has one cotyledon, right? One cotyledon. Now, their petals are in multiples of 3. So we're going to count. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's not this. This is a dicot plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a dicot plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dicot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now 6 is a multiple of 3. So therefore the answer is D. Let's move on to question number 3. The diagram shows a cross section through 2 guard cells of a leaf. Which label structures would also be found in an animal cell? Now you should know what all is present in an animal cell and what is present in a plant cell. You should also be able to identify organelles from a diagram given. Remember that IGCSE diagrams are in black and white, so you should practice reading from black and white diagrams rather than colored diagrams. Now, which label structures would also be found in an animal cell? So we'll identify everything. So Y is a chloroplast. Humans cannot photosynthesize, hence they don't have a chloroplast. So one way you can do this is, we know that Y is not present in an animal cell. So we can rule out options B and C. Now this X is a cell membrane, right? Humans do have a cell membrane. W is a nucleus. Nucleus is present in almost every eukaryotic cell except prokaryotes, which you might know as bacteria. They're also called the Monera family. Now Z is the cell wall. I know that they're not pointing at the cell wall directly, but you should make out that this is the cell wall, because this will be the cytoplasm. This is a common misconception. This is the cytoplasm, right? So we know that the answer has to be Y and Z, right? What is not present in an animal cell will be Y and Z. So what is present in an animal cell will be X and W. So our answer will be W and X. Yes. Let's move on to question number 4. The table shows some structures found in the human body. Which row shows the correct level of organization from the simplest structure to the most complex? Okay. So the basic functional and structural unit of an organism is termed as a cell. That's a definition you should know. So we know that it's not a heart muscle because it's a collection of tissues, right? It's not heart muscle again. So it has to be red blood cell. It has to either be option A or option C. Now there's heart. Now heart is an organ and heart muscle will become this tissue. So our correct option will be C. I'm just going to mark C. Remember that every MCQ should take approximately 1 minute. Because I'm explaining every MCQ to you, it's going to take a bit longer. By which process does oxygen move from a region of high concentration in the alveoli to a region of low concentration in the blood? Now when you see high concentration to low concentration, we know that it has to be either diffusion or osmosis, right? Now osmosis involves the movement of water only. Now, diffusion can be any particle or any substance. Now we have no mention of the water molecules over here, so we're obviously going to say diffusion. Question number 6. The diagram shows a section through a mesophyll cell of a leaf. Which part is partially permeable? Now A is the cell wall, which means it's fully permeable. It allows every molecule to pass through. Partially permeable means it allows only selective substances to pass through and leave. Our correct option would be B, which is a cell membrane, right? It's a cell membrane. Now you should remember that cell membrane is made of protein and fat. It's not necessary that they'll ask it in your examination, but it's good to know this. Because if they ask for the uses of protein or fat, you can mention that it's in the cell membrane. Question number 7. What are the smaller basic units of starch and glycogen molecules? Now we know that starch and glycogen are both polysaccharides, which means that they're made of many simple sugars. Now for starch and glycogen, they both are made of monosaccharides, right? So it definitely can't be amino acids, right? So we're going to look at, for starch is definitely glucose, and for glycogen is a way of storage in humans. Starch is in plants and glycogen is in humans. You should remember this, and the correct option would be D. Right? Question number 8. Okay, these questions you will need your calculator. I'm using the FX991EX calculator because my examination is in the Feb-March 2024. Okay. A chromosome was analyzed and found to have 6,125 pairs of bases. So it has 6,125 pairs, remember that. Not the number of bases, but pairs of bases. Okay. The type of each base was identified and 2,345 of the bases were G. Okay, now G always bonds with C and A always bonds with T. This is guanine, cytosine, adenine and thymine. You should remember this. Now let's calculate the number of bases that are there. If there are 6,125 pairs of bases, the number of bases should be 6,125 multiplied by 2, which gives us 12,250. Okay, so 12,250. Now if 2,345 of these were G, we need to subtract 2,345 from that. And if there are 2,345 G, there has to be 2,345 C as well. So we'll subtract 2,345 again. And that gives us 7,560. Now, that is A and T together add up to 7,560. So we're going to divide that by 2. That's going to give us 3,780, which is option B in this case. So that's how you approach a question. You first read, you mark the important points and then solve. Question number 9, which type of molecule are enzymes made of? Now this is a fact that you should know. It's made up of proteins. Which statement describes the effect of temperature in enzymes? Okay. High temperatures denature enzymes, making it difficult for substrate molecules to fit into the active site. High temperatures denature enzymes, making it easy. No. Now when there are high temperatures, the molecules and the enzymes collide really fast. Now because it's colliding so fast, the active site's shape changes, which means that the active site is no longer complementary to the substance it's trying to break down. So it can't fit in. So the correct option will be A. The statement describes some of the events that occur in a plant cell after light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll. Okay. Now, question 11, what happens first? 1, the light energy is converted into chemical energy. Yes, that's 1. Then glucose is produced. Yes. Then 2, and then 3. So it's going to be 1, 4, 2, 3. Is that an option? Yes, it's D. Moving on to question number 12. A deficiency of magnesium ions can cause plant leaves to become yellow between the leaf vein. What is the reason for this? Now, magnesium is used to produce chlorophyll. Okay. Now, if there's a lack of magnesium ions, chlorophyll can no longer be produced. That means there'll be a decreased chlorophyll production. That's the reason. Now, when you see, even if you didn't know the fact, you can always obviously realize that if it's becoming yellow, the chlorophyll gives the green color to the plants, right? And if it's becoming yellow, it means that chlorophyll is not being produced at such high levels. So even if you don't know the answer, don't give up. You can always rule out options. There are no negative markings. So think or skip the question and come back to it later. Question number 13. The table shows some different compounds in a balanced diet. Which row correctly matches the components to the reason why they're needed? Vitamin D is needed for insulation, transport, or to make hemoglobin or bone growth. Now, this is a fact that you should know. And since all of these options are different, I already know the answer. It's going to be B, bone growth. Now, vitamin D is essential because if the body has to absorb calcium, vitamin D has to be present. So calcium can't be absorbed without the presence of vitamin D, which can be obtained from sun, egg, etc. Now, water is needed for transport. We know this. And fats are needed for insulation. Now, even if you knew one of these, you can always rule out the other options because none of them are actually similar over here. They're all different. So these are the type of questions which, it's a giveaway question. You'll get marks. Question number 14. Which process involves the removal of material from the rectum? Now, that will be egestion. Egestion is the removal of undigested products that were never part of your cells. So they were never absorbed, they were never assimilated, nothing. An example of this would be fiber, because humans are not able to digest fiber because of the presence of cellulose. It's just there to give bulk to the large intestine, small intestine, so that peristalsis can become easier. You need to know that. It's very important. Question number 15. The diagram shows a cross section of a part of a plant. Which part of the plant is shown and what is the tissue labeled H? Now, when you look at this, you should know the difference between the cross section of a root and the cross section of a stem, right? Now, this is the cross section of a root. And you should always remember that how I like to remember it is whenever you see the X here, right? It looks like an X if you look at it in an angle or a plus sign, whatever. It looks like an X to me. So you can remember this as xylem, right? The X is the xylem, which means H is automatically the phloem. So we're going to say this is the plant root and tissue H will become the phloem. The apparatus shown can be used to investigate the effect of temperature and humidity on the rate of transpiration. Which set of conditions would give the highest rate of transpiration and greatest decrease in mass? Okay, the highest rate of transpiration occurs when the temperature is warmer. Now, why is this? Because molecules have a higher kinetic energy and are able to move around faster, which means they escape from the plant faster, which means that temperature should be warm. Greatest decrease in mass happens when there's greatest transpiration. So humidity should be low. Why is this? If humidity means the water content in the air. If there's a lower water content in the air than the plant, there's a higher diffusion gradient or concentration gradient. So water molecules are able to move easily from the plant to the air. As simple as that. So question number 17. People are sometimes born with a hole in the heart. Okay, so very common disease actually these days. This is caused by a gap in the septum as shown. Now you don't need to know this, right? You won't know what it is because we haven't studied it. But you need to always make sure you're reading the second part, which is the explanation. If the gap in the septum is not repaired, it causes the person to become breathless more quickly. What is the possible explanation for this? Now for this, you need to know what the septum does. Right? The septum separates the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood, right? So deoxygenated blood in the left atrium. Now you need to remember that deoxygenated blood is present in the right Now look over here. It says atrium, so it's definitely wrong because this is the ventricle. These are the atria. This is atrium, and this is atrium, and this is ventricle, and this is also ventricle, right? Now, so we can rule out A and B. Oxygenated blood in the left ventricle mixes with the deoxygenated blood in the right ventricle. Now, yes, that is correct because oxygenated blood is present on the left. This can be very confusing because when you're looking at the paper, it looks like your right is your left and your left is your right. Always put yourself in the position of the heart, which means imagine that you're standing next to the paper and then think about what's your left and what's your right. The flow diagram shows stages in blood clotting. Okay. Components of blood involved in clotting circulate the body. Okay. Okay. Blood vessel walls are damaged. Component X is converted to component Y and component Y forms a mesh. Now component X will be soluble fibrinogen. You need to know this. Which gets converted to insoluble fibrin. So correct option is going to be fibrinogen, which is over here. It's a common question. It's very easy if you know the theory behind it. Question number 19. What is an example of passive immunity? Now, passive immunity is short-term immunity, which means there are no memory cells produced. You need to remember this. Immunity against influenza after an individual has been infected with the influenza virus, this will become active immunity. Why is this? When the organism is actually attacked by the particular virus before, it means that there are memory cells which are produced, right? So that's definitely not A. B, the formation of memory cells. No, I just explained that. C, given chickenpox antibodies. Okay. Now you're giving the antibodies from somebody else, which means your body is not making any antibodies, which means memory cells are not produced because your body actually doesn't have any role in making these antibodies, right? So we're going to say C. Let's just look at option D, vaccination. Now vaccination is a very common example of active immunity. So it's definitely not D. You should know the difference between active immunity, passive immunity, and examples for it as well. Question number 20. What happens at the start of inspiration? Now you should know this. There's no real way of explaining it, right? In inspiration, external intercostal muscles contract and internal intercostal muscles relax. So it has to either be option C or D. Now for the diaphragm, there's actually an explanation. You can think about it as the pressure reduces when the volume increases. Now when the diaphragm contracts, there's an increase in the volume, which means there's a reduction in pressure. So the air outside the body is at a higher pressure than the air inside the body, which means the air moves from the outside to the inside of the body. And that happens because the volume in the thorax increases. So we're going to see the correct option is C. That is the correct answer. Question number 21. Germinating seeds respire aerobically. Now, when you look at germinating seeds, you immediately go, oh, okay, it's the equation for photosynthesis. Now, that's exactly what they want you to think. Now, you have to read the third question, which is respire. I won't say I haven't made the same mistake. I've done this too in my mock examinations. Now, germinating seeds respire aerobically to release energy that can be used for growth. The balanced equation for aerobic respiration in seeds can be represented as shown. Q plus R gives rise to S plus T. Which row gives the balanced equation for the aerobic respiration of seeds? Now, the aerobic respiration of seeds is the same as the aerobic respiration of humans. So, if you know that, it should be fairly simple. Now, we don't use CO2 as a raw material. We do use glucose and we use oxygen. So, it has to be either option B or D. Now, let's look at this. C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives 6CO2 plus 6H2O. Now, it does not produce, we don't use water in respiration. We use oxygen and glucose. So, the correct option is B. Question number 22. During vigorous exercise, lactic acid builds up in muscles and leads to an oxygen debt. Okay. Which statement describes a stage in the removal of oxygen debt during recovery? Anaerobic respiration breaks down lactic acid in the muscles. No, that's incorrect because we already have a debt, right? If we use anaerobic respiration again, we're going to fall more into debt. You can think of it as a bank. So it's not A. Aerobic respiration breaks down lactic acid in muscles. That's incorrect. You should know that oxygen debt is repaid in the liver. Now, aerobic respiration breaks down lactic acid in the liver. So, our correct option is going to be D. Now, you should always rule out options even though you know what the correct answer is. What if it's tricky? What if you find two correct answers according to you? Then you will know that, okay, maybe I have thought of something in a different way or I have read the question wrong. And that's how you figure things out. And that's how you make sure you get a 40 on 40 in the bio MCQ paper or any MCQ paper. Now, question number 23. The table shows the concentration of sodium ions in blood plasma, glomerular filtrate, and in urine. Okay, what is the percentage of sodium ions reabsorbed in the kidney tubules? Okay, that's interesting, right? So, how would you do this question? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to see the glomerular filtrate. That is the filtrate which passes through the Bowman's capsule, which goes through the Bowman's, which is in the Bowman's capsule, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your calculator, type in 127 minus 141 divided by 141 into 100. Okay, I got a value of minus 9.9, which is basically 9.9 in this case. So we're going to say this. Or another way of doing it would be, you can, okay, this is actually the best way of doing it, but if you want another way, you can also, let me show you, hold on. Do 14, because 141 minus 127 gives 14. 14 divided by 141 multiplied by 100 gives you 9.92 as well. So that's in positive value. So if you're able to understand that better, that is also a good method. I'm just used to the percentage difference formula because that's the one which we use very often. Now, I'm going to continue this in part 2. So thank you for watching this video. If you like this, give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you do want a part 2 to this, because we're running out of time. Okay, bye-bye.